everyone.
Good evening and welcome.
And who is our guest?
I have no idea.
Oh, not this again.
I know, but one thing I do know is it's Codes of the Unknown.
Oh, yeah.
Good evening. Welcome, everybody. Is Andy going to say welcome?
Oh, I did do. Is it lagging again?
Yeah, we didn't hear you. But anyway, it doesn't matter. So tonight's guest is renowned lead investigator for Ghost Hunters International and author of several books, including In the Mist of Gods and A Complete Approach, a scientific and metaphysical guide to the paranormal. So please give a massive Codes welcome to Barry Fitzgerald.
Thank you very much, folks. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
No, we appreciate it ourselves.
Oh, yeah, yeah, really do.
Thank you.
I want to crack off and ask you, what got you into the paranormal? What was the one thing that made you go down that path?
I think there was a multitude of things that initially really there were cornerstones to allow me to do this. Growing up in a house in my youth that was haunted, of course, right, was one of those cornerstones where I had my own experience. And at Christmas time too, I can remember I woke up with this terrible thirst and I wanted to go downstairs for some water, but it was a double staircase. Yeah. There was a double landing, and I always had a habit of, as a child, looking over and down the staircase before I descended into the darkness. And that's whenever I saw this figure coming up the stairs, and of course, with it being Christmas Eve, I assumed it was Santa, and I'd been caught. Yeah. And so I retracted back to my bedroom and forced myself into slumber, and woke up and the presents were there. So I put two and two together, and that was it. Yeah. It was only years later that my parents they kept us protected from the stories of the house, and it was about 10, 15 years later that my mother confessed to me that she had also been having experiences within the house, and the house was known within the town for having this reputation. So yeah, there was that. And my father, of course, he used to sit me down in front of the new color television and watch Doctor Who and Star Trek. So I think he has to take some responsibility there. Though I don't think he was setting me at the time on a path of who, why, what, and when. I think more so it was just a way of getting us to shut the hell up.
Yeah.
But and then years later, then I had my own experiences, and I wanted to know why and how, and I came across this absolutely amazing book called Jadoo, and I was absolutely enthralled by
Wow.
it, and following the author around the world, and all these mysteries that he wrote about. And that was it. I remember starting out to work whenever I had just left school, and one of the managers had said to me, "Barry, what is it you really want to be?" And I said, I wanted to be, oh my goodness, what's his name now? I've forgotten it. The adventure on TV that has the whip and the hat.
Oh, Indiana Jones.
Indiana Jones, yeah. He says, I wanted to be Indiana Jones. And, he laughed it off. And little did I know what road I was going to be placed on. And, to be heading into Peru, hunting three-fingered aliens that were found in the desert and everything else. And, I think to myself, wow, I, in a strange sort of a way, I did become what I set out to be.
Yeah. That's fabulous.
Yeah. I know, it's amazing.
So
that's been pretty much it.
Yeah, just you're lagging.
Okay.
And freezing. Anyway, sorry about that.
Right.
So,
I'm going to switch. Sorry, but I'm going to switch to my phone. It'll be easier. Just bear with me.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
So then, what other? Moving on from that, what other experiences did you have early on?
Oh my goodness. I've had many experiences within that would fit within many of the fringe research fields. And I think those in themselves have really give me this ability to establish these links between the phenomena.
Yeah.
In many of the fringe research fields, and which really came together within the latest publication there, the Deceptions of Gods and Men.
Yeah.
Which really delves into this idea that possibly we're looking at the same phenomena, the origins of the same phenomena, just being interpreted differently.
Yeah.
And so, the experiences that I've had from night attacks, from UFOs, from cryptids to even the fairy here in Ireland. Yeah. It was amazing to see how my experiences within these particular realms allowed me to see this common thread that wove its way through it all.
Yeah.
It also allowed me to see their weakness, and that was very, very important. It wasn't a case of, I'm not the type of person who goes out to initially make contact.
Yeah.
But I place myself in certain situations where contact has been established.
Yes.
And by doing that, I observe a lot. And to me, great science can be very, very abused. I've seen of late over the past several years. It can be very abused, but good science starts with observation.
Yes.
And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to go to these locations. I wanted to have the experiences, but I also wanted to observe. I wanted to see what happened, how they interacted with me, why they interacted that way, and what was their weakness. So, and out of that, we've come to some really good, sound conclusions. And the hunt still goes on. It will go on until the day I die, and possibly after.
Yeah.
So we're always learning. Each one of us are always learning.
Oh yeah, every day is a school day.
Indeed, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely is.
Have you got a question, Andy?
Yes. Sorry. The laptop's lagging so much. I really do apologise for this. So, can I ask, how did you get out on Ghost?
Sorry, Andy, that last question there just broke up.
Oh, how did you get started with Ghost Hunters? How did you get into that?
Well, I was initially doing some tours to this remote little castle down in County Meath, and it was a friend of mine that that was in the BBC had told me about this place. Said, you maybe want to have a look there, and I went down and I visited, and it was way off the tourist main route, and it sat on the edges of this beautiful lake.
Yeah.
And it slept 17 people, but there was hardly anybody there. Right. And I had my own experiences whenever I stayed in the castle for the first time. So I knew then that this was the place that I wanted to bring people to, so that they could have their experiences. And many people did. And I have to say, it was quite a remarkable thing to have a group of both men and women down, but to see that men were worse than women.
Yeah.
Because when we are taking out of a situation that we feel in control of, we lose it much worse than a bunch of women. There were many laughs, of course, to be had, but there were also some scares.
Yeah,
it was a beautiful place, and so it was a group of Americans had come across from Washington D.C. and we made contact, and they stayed with me at the castle and things like that. And so when they went back to America, they were asked by the production company, do they know anyone in Ireland? And just so happened they knew me, so my name was put in the hat.
Yeah.
And they came across to Ireland to film, and I was asked if I would be a fixer for them, and I said yes, no problem, that's fine. And I knew that they were going to Lep Castle. Sean's a friend of mine who owns Lep Castle, and so that was fine. And when they arrived, they said that one of their cast was afraid of flying, and he dropped out at the very last moment, and they're one man down. Would I mind if I went in front of the camera instead of behind it? And I said, sure, yeah, that's fine. Not thinking where it was going to lead, because for me it was about Lep Castle, and that was it. And Lep Castle could be one of the best and the highest rated shows of the Ghost Hunter series. And about 2 months after that, I got a phone call back here in Ireland, and it was from Los Angeles, and they said that we're doing a spin-off show and we're going to go global. Yeah. And would you consider being part of the team? And I thought, yeah, why not? And that was it. And off we went.
Excellent.
So it was just the right place,
right
the right
place
time.
at the right time.
Synchronicity.
Indeed. That and a little bit of the spiritual health, no doubt.
Oh yeah, definitely. So I want to know about Hellfire Caves.
Hellfire Caves.
I've heard of Hellfire Caves, but I don't know a lot about it.
Hellfire Caves. Now there's the Hellfire Caves in England, which we investigated, and there's also a Hellfire Club here in just outside Dublin. Yeah, up the mountains.
Right.
Now, a lot of people will say that there was a lot of demonic stuff that was going on within them, hence the name and all the rest. But that wasn't necessarily the case. It was people who had enough wealth, and they put that together. And of course, they had parties underground, and many things went in those particular parties. And people were more free to follow their wishes and wants and everything else. Yeah. In places where they're not likely to be seen. Yeah. And those particular tunnels in England are one of those places. And there was some history behind it that talked about I believe it was a monkey that was held in one of the caves, and it escaped, and all bedlam broke out because of it. And the monkey, of course, then became associated with the devil and all the rest, but it was all nonsense.
Yeah.
It's amazing how rumors can really develop a place.
Yeah.
But yeah, we investigated them. I can't remember. It's been so long now. It must be 15 years since I was there.
Right.
But I can't remember what we found. I'm trying to remember. I vaguely remember the layout of the place, but I can't remember the activity that we got.
Yeah.
But of course, the tunnels are still there. You're still able to go on. You're still able to venture into them, and they are worth looking at.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But there are much better places. If you're into the paranormal and things like that, then there are much better places like Paris.
Catacombs.
The catacombs in Paris, yes, are really something else.
Yeah, I can imagine that as well.
Yeah, and Europe is littered with these tunnel complexes.
Yeah.
But that's that.
Have you ever been to the ones in Edinburgh underneath?
Oh yes. We did that. Mary King's Close.
Yes.
Yes, we did that as well, and I distinctly remember the wallpaper that had arsenic in it. I was always being very careful not to rub it against the wall. Not that I make a habit of rubbing my hand against the wall and then licking it.
No, not really. Yeah.
But I did like Mary's King Close. And there have been a lot of things that really are worth looking into.
Yeah.
In Edinburgh and places like that. The more that we get into it, the more that we start to delve into the myths and the legends, the more bizarre this place becomes. It really is something else. And Mary King's Close was one of those places. But I do distinctly remember the hard floors and my feet. They're always destroyed with cobblestones, and Mary King's Close is full of cobblestones.
Yeah.
So you really are affected with the pains by the time you leave.
I can imagine that.
Something else.
Yeah.
But we will head down there, of course, and during the day we would have got our shots. But a lot of folks don't understand that as they watch 25 minutes of an episode on screen, that's a week's film.
Yeah.
So by the time they're watching 45 minutes, that's 2 weeks of filming.
Yeah.
And you just will not see that within the show.
No, there's a lot goes into the background of it all.
Oh, huge amount goes into the background.
Yeah. Amazing though.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned earlier about cryptids. What particular cryptids have you come across?
Oh, I'm absolutely fascinated with Bigfoot.
Oh yeah.
I have Bigfoot's print hanging on my wall in the living room, and it was presented to me in California whenever I was in. That was from the right. Is it? I can't remember the guy's names now. But it was the one from the creek back in, I think, 1969 or something like that. It was. Yeah,
Bluff Creek.
Bluff Creek. That was
Hattie.
it. And absolutely fascinated with it. And I was in a Native American reservation in California when I got to see it for myself.
Yeah.
And this place is famous for having a doorway for Bigfoot.
Right.
And I was being very, very still. I just wanted to sit beside the river. And as I was there, I was by myself. Everyone else had gone at that stage. And all of a sudden I became aware that I was being watched. And I slowly lifted my head and looked as this huge figure just moved. It just turned and moved to the right. And as it was the weirdest thing, because as it moved, it just vanished.
Yeah.
It just. But it wasn't like being beamed up to the Enterprise or nothing like that. It just seemed to phase out.
Yeah.
Gone. But you know, the cool thing was, I never lost the sense of being watched.
No.
Entire time, it was like I was still watching, even though it was visually I couldn't see it, but I was very aware that it was there.
Yes. That's unusual.
But do you think there was just? Yeah, I was just going to say, do you think there's just one thing watching you, or do you think there's multiple?
Who knows? Who knows? It really is a hard one to say. You know, I'm aware of people on the reservation who were followed back by this particular creature, and they were living in a double wide trailer.
Yeah,
and this thing came after the vehicle that they were in. And they managed to get back to the double wide trailer and get in through the door. Well, this Bigfoot hit the double wide trailer, moved it on its foundation.
How?
And they went out guns blazing and bang, 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 and this thing never even stopped. It just climbed over the fence and was gone.
Yeah.
Now they weren't able to get hair samples, blood samples, and we know the university that it went back to get tested, but nothing ever came of it. So we don't know whatever happened to the samples.
It's funny that tends to happen quite a lot. The samples get sent off, and then there's either inconclusive proof or nothing comes back.
Yeah.
Lost in transit, so to speak.
Yes, sadly.
Wow.
I also wanted to know about the ghost child of Peru. Is that to do with the swings, or have I got something completely different?
The Ghost Child of Peru. I can't remember that one. See, I had done 56 episodes, and they just all meld into one.
Yeah, well, I should think they do. We had to separate.
I do remember my times in Peru. In fact, the most recent time, I was back investigating the three-fingered mummies that were discovered in the desert.
Oh.
And these huge mummies that were discovered with 3 fingers and 3 toes.
Right.
There was insinuations that they were alien.
Right.
They were a type of hybrid. And no matter what, the DNA tests just were not coming back. They weren't making any sense. They were all over the place. So we ended up heading out, myself and Steve Mira from England there, and we headed out and we investigated it, and we found out what it was. It took several trips out to Peru to find out that these particular figures were being manufactured in Nazca.
Right.
There was a facility out there that were producing these. They were using bones from dead children and animals and things like that. And it was a horrific thing, absolutely horrific, that they were brutalizing their own heritage. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand. The poverty out there is tremendous, like nothing else.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the people who were at the deceptive end of this were exceptionally rich themselves. So it wasn't the poor people of Peru that were doing this. There was money behind this.
Yeah.
And we ended up getting involved in the black market and everything else to find out what was actually going on.
Right.
And we exposed it. We came back and we made a documentary and we exposed it for what it was.
Yeah.
And we moved on. But I don't think I'll be welcome back in Peru anytime soon.
That's terrible, though, isn't it? Like you say, the poverty is that bad that they've got to come up with something like that. But that's absolutely terrible how they did it.
Yeah, as I say, the poverty is bad, but the people who were doing it weren't short of a few dollars.
Yeah.
So, when you're trying to sell one of the mummies for €1 million or $1 million, this is it's just sheer corruption. And there were some TV folks and stuff like that were involved with this. But that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
But that's.
Yeah. People do for money, isn't it?
Yeah, no.
Yeah. And the the more we roll into 2022, and things are going to start getting tight for a lot of people, that financially tight into 2023. It'll be amazing to see what's going to come out across the internet.
Yeah.
And we're expected to bite this and say, oh, this is it. The aliens have arrived. Be very, very careful, folks.
Yeah.
Those particular things have been here already, and they're here. They've been here for a long, long time. They're not coming from Mars. They're already here.
Yeah, I agree with that. Totally.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Definitely, yeah.
So I'm presuming you've seen a UFO.
So should we do some...
Oh, sorry, go on.
Oh, no, I was going to say, should we do some viewers' questions?
Yeah,
Still lagging, I know. Sorry, there's nothing I can do about it. But do you want to carry on with that question and we'll get this up?
Yeah. Yep, no worries. So Barry, I'm presuming you've seen a UFO.
Many, yes.
Or a lot of UFOs then. What was the most spectacular encounter you had?
I would probably have to say I was out in the high desert in California, and we were attending a convention out there, and there was folks that were practicing the CE5 technique at the back of the hotel, and I could see them getting carried away about satellites and things like that. But we knew that what we were looking for, because we use satellite technology now to indicate where the hotspots are.
Yeah.
And it really takes it away from a shot in the dark, trying to find a location. You just go onto the satellite technology and you look at it and say, okay, that's where we need to be. And we needed to be up in the high desert, which was about 7 miles away from the hotel. And we arrived up there. There was about 10 people in the group, and we said, okay, let's do this. So most of the people that were there, they had cameras around their necks, and they were all getting ready for the moment that ET landed in front of them.
Yeah.
But it became very, very clear that these particular things would not appear in front of the camera. There are reasons for that.
Yeah.
But I happened to quietly say to the group, I says, would you mind putting your cameras away, because these things will not come out if the camera's there. And that was it. The moment that the last camera was put away, suddenly the hair went up in the back of my neck. I understood, okay, it's here. And then suddenly, boom, it was there. And it was over our heads, over the vehicles. And it was like looking at this massive welder's arc over our heads.
Right.
And it was just boom, 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 boom. And there was a lady there from England. Oh, I never forget, because she had read about this particular phenomenon, but never actually got to see it for herself.
Right.
So suddenly now she's confronted with it. It's there, and the only thing that we could get out of her was, and pardon my English, it was oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck, and that continued throughout. So everybody was able to see it. They were there.
Yeah.
There was none of this third person or three people together will see three different things. We all saw the same thing.
Yeah.
And then finally it stopped communicating and then left. And that, there was great importance with that. There's great lessons for the people that were there observing that, in which they had to understand. We didn't stay long after that. After it left, we left. And there were reasons for that.
Right.
But that was a great experience for everybody.
Yeah.
But because I removed everybody from the location, it was made quite clear that I had to keep everyone there.
Right.
I said, oh no, we're not playing that game, and I got everyone out of there, and because of that, I was cut off.
Right.
So if you do not obey to the letter, you're cut off, and I was cut off, and for must be now 3 years now, the activity hasn't really returned because I question it. I understand the phenomenon. I've experienced it enough times. I know what to look for, what its intentions are, and where to look for the phenomenon when it's trying to distract us from this other flashy light phenomenon.
Yeah.
So I'm very acute to it, and I won't play that game. I'm very much. To me, if an energy, an entity, call it whatever you want, wants to come and communicate with me, I'm open to the idea. I'm not someone who sits there and goes, no, this is not real. I'm very, very open to it, but don't try and bullshit me. Don't try and sell me something that you're not. That's where the problem lies, because I'm too long in the tooth now. And I won't accept the deception. So, and that of course led to the release of The Deception of Gods and Men.
I need to get that on my book list.
Yes.
Sorry, Andy, go on.
Can I just ask, you know, when you said people seeing the same thing or difference when they're looking at the same object, what do you think it is that's causing people to see a different image to the next person?
What tends to happen, Andy, is that you've got what we call the 20-second rule. And initially, when the encounter happens, you've got 20 seconds in which your own instinct is already stepping into gear. It's giving you the information that you need to understand the phenomenon. Now, within that 20 seconds, once you pass that 20-second rule, then what tends to happen is that your brain then is being steered into the theta rhythm by the phenomenon. And that's where then you can start entering hypnotic suggestion, deep meditative states, and false memory. So that's why they link to you through the conscious brain. And once they have you hooked, that's why we all see different things. So at that particular point, they're projecting what they want you to see, and also the problem can arise in what we want to see. That could be a problem. So within the first initial 20 seconds, that's when our bodies react to the phenomena. And it doesn't matter what way it appears, whether it appears as a small child or whether it appears as a nuts and bolts craft flying through the sky, or it appears as Bigfoot, whatever the case may be. Within the first 20 seconds, our instincts, our intuition is already playing its part in helping us decipher that. But if we don't listen to that and we're caught by the visual phenomena, then after 20 seconds, we're steered down a completely different route.
Right. So that we're then shown what they want us to see.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
What do you think they want from us?
Your
opinion, not like a general, just your opinion.
My opinion is that he who owns the body wins. And that's really what it comes down to. It's about attachment, and how far that attachment can go. It's about you accepting it without question. Because the moment that we become suspicious of the phenomena, it hightails it out of there. That to me speaks volumes, because if you've got something that's coming through and it's wanting the best for you, it won't mind a few questions for clarity. But the moment that it suspects, wait a minute, they don't buy it, I'm out of here. That speaks volumes. Absolute volumes. And it's something, it's very, very interesting to see within the likes of the seance room and things like that, where we will have interaction with this phenomena that comes through the veil, and it will give us 4 lies and 1 truth. And as a species, we have this strange ability in which we take the 4 lies and throw it out and just concentrate on the 1 truth. That's it. we're lost at that particular stage because we'll accept anything that comes along. And we have to stop doing that.
Yeah.
We have to ground ourselves off. We have to say, okay, we're experiencing this phenomenon. Let's try and understand what it actually is.
Yeah. Yes. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Right,
Thank you.
we've got some questions in. So the first one is from
You want to
Johnny.
start there?
Yeah, I am doing. It's your lag.
All right.
Right. Can Barry please tell us the incident experience that made him dedicate himself to the subject? Well, we kind of covered that in the beginning, didn't we? But
Yeah.
I suppose you could answer what made you sort of go over to that completely, because I presume he did do that.
Well, after GHI, I'd come back and we wanted to. Well, initially, I suppose I had been speaking to a lot of people from different cultures around the world that I was able to interact with.
Yeah.
And speaking to them on a spiritual level, I realized, wait a minute, these people are experiencing the same things we are back in Ireland. How is this possible? Like, they're in the southern hemisphere. How are they experiencing the same things? What is it they're experiencing? And so coming back to Ireland, we started the Legend Seeker project, and we really wanted to see if there was anything in the landscape that possibly still lingered from those days gone by. And I have to say, it was an absolute terrifying experience. It was such it came across at such a power, such a level. It was like you were coming face to face with the ancient gods themselves, and they didn't take any prisoners. And I have to say, by delving into the Legend Seekers project, I've had more experience and more extreme experiences than I've had in 30 years of going to haunted houses. It was nothing like that. It was much more extreme. And that particular process, the Island of the Dead, was one of those places that really lifted me out of my paradigm and set me on a new railway track.
Yeah.
And that was very, very powerful, and has placed me where I am today.
Brilliant.
Cool.
Thank you.
Right.
And next question.
Next question is from Johnny again. Is Barry's found experience with the paranormal?
I would have to say that the most profound experience would have been the Island of the Dead, and that is an island based here in Ireland, and it's a very, very difficult island to get to. It's very dangerous. The waters around it is very, very dangerous, and that was very prolific, an encounter that we weren't ready for, and that really has paved the way for my next book, the Fruit of the Gods, because that has taken us from Ireland all the way back to Mesopotamia, and where we find the links of the deities, of the gods, of the beings. We're tracking them from Ireland all the way back, and that has been a phenomenal case, and that in itself was very, very powerful. And I didn't understand how this was going to echo itself out through GHI. And when we were filming in Transylvania, we ended up going to Dracula's Castle.
Wow!
And it was an area
wanted to go there,
which was up in the cliff edge, 1,642 steps or something like that. And so we ended up going there. But you see, for me, I tended to have experiences before we went to a location. So I would have had my visitations before going. And Dracula's Castle was no different. And lo and behold, as I was getting ready to go, this vision appeared, in which it was a woman standing on the back of lions. And she was furious, absolutely furious, that I was going to Dracula's Castle. I had no idea who the hell this woman was. I didn't know what she wanted, or why she was so pissed off. It made no sense to me because it didn't. There was no connection there with
Yeah.
Vlad and the woman. I don't know who the hell she was. But anyway, we ended up going to the castle. We investigated, and we never got nothing. Not even so much as a mouse's fart did we get on EVP recording. And there was nothing like that was coming through. And we tried everything to reach Vlad, and there was nothing. But during the recording, I altered my questioning, and I addressed that particular woman directly. And I asked if she was there. And we got one Class A EVP back, and it was an absolute Class A. But it made no sense to there was no context to it for anyone who was watching it at home.
Right.
I asked, was she there? In which we got one reply: "Leave now."
Oh.
I didn't know what this was about. But it was years later. In fact, it was just last year that I made this discovery that the Vlad's father, of course, was part of the Order of the Dragon, which its symbol is the serpent or the dragon eating its own tail. It's in a circle.
Yeah.
We were told that was his grouping of the elite within Eastern Europe who were there to fight for Christendom. That's not necessarily the case, because that particular symbol goes all the way back. It's an esoteric symbol, an esoteric occult symbol from Mesopotamia. Vlad was held by the Turkish Ottoman Empire. He was introduced to this. Now, that particular symbol, and I have to say that the woman standing in the back of the two lions was Astarte. She was the goddess of war for Mesopotamia. What on earth was the elite doing practicing Mesopotamian occult practices in Vlad's castle? So there are huge questions now being asked because of what I was experiencing. And we're finding the clues to this, and it makes for some unsettling revamps of history, if we like.
Another way of looking at things.
It definitely is, yeah. History is not what we thought it was.
No, definitely not. There's things popping up in there and everywhere.
I don't think I believe anything I was taught at school anymore.
I don't think I do either.
Nothing, not even close to what's actually going on.
No.
Yeah.
Right, next question's from Rick. Has Andy? Oh, he meant Barry. Has Barry encountered any fairies?
Barry.
Absolutely. And I have to say when we're using particular terms such as fairies and jinn and grey aliens and things like that, these are all masks. They're all masks in which they wish to be presented, how they wish to be understood, how they want us to interpret them. Now, when we look at the fairies, for instance, if we go back, say, 100 years, 150 years, we have stories here of the Fae attacking a farmer's livelihood, his cattle, and they absolutely butcher the animals. They take the udders from them, the sexual organs, the skin from the mouth and nose. That's exactly what the aliens have been doing since 1950 here in the Western Hemisphere. So this is not new phenomena. It's just we're interpreting it differently. The fairies were doing the same. In fact, I have even encountered, I've come across places here in Ireland which are close, in fact, a stone's throw away from fairy ring forts and things like that, where you will find the cattle that has been butchered, the sheep that have been butchered, and parts of their mouths missing, the tongues are gone, the eyes are out, the anus is cored, and things like that. So all of this It's something that we normally tend
Yeah.
to identify within ufology, but it's not. It's the same phenomena, just a different mask.
Right.
Now, in regards to the fairy, yes, I have been in places where
Yeah.
they have presented themselves. I have seen them. I've seen them with my own eyes, and in fact, I've even photographed them.
Wow.
They are not Tinkerbell by any means.
Doesn't sound like it.
Not at all. In fact,
No.
there's one location that
Yeah,
I'm aware of, which we had done through the Legend Seeker project, and it was an old quarry. And this particular place further down the country was plagued with activity. New machinery would be brought onto site and it wouldn't work. Machinery would be taken off site and it would start working again.
Right.
Vehicles that are brought on, their electronics are all over the place. And they built an office block, and on the other side of the yard, they built a tool shed. And they were working away in there. And one guy was using the table saw, and all of a sudden he was clubbed in the back of the head, and he fell forward, and the fingers came off. The fingers were stuck with the saw, and this figure was seen walking away.
Oh.
And this is a common description of the Fae, in which you will see their back, you won't see their front. And that's what I was saying as well. They were always walking away from me, never toward me.
Right.
Now, I have been in situations where I have been able to glimpse their faces. But in this particular instance, religious iconography was absolutely destroyed within the office blocks. Religious statues and things like that were smashed to powder. The church was called out to the location, and they couldn't do anything with it. They were there 4 times, and they finally said, "There's nothing we can do with this. You need to get away from here." And they finally then it got to a stage. Then one person was staying in the buildings, the office blocks, and he brought dogs with him. Now I'm talking German shepherds, like these things. They were trained. And they weren't afraid of anything. Excuse me.
Okay.
And the thing that murdered the dogs.
No.
And this is something that we also see crossing over into the likes of Skinwalker Ranch in Utah. I was there in October 2019, and the entities there, the energies that come through the void, they target the dogs first. And the reason that they target the dogs is because they have a higher sense of what's going on. They're more highly aware of what's going on around them. Where us as humans, we tend to ignore a lot of that.
Yeah.
And one example of how bad it gets within the area around Skinwalker is that there was a ranch next door that was up for sale, and one of the guys, one of the farmers, he went in to look at the buildings. The house was opened. He went in and he left the dog outside. And he went in, he walked around the house, and he was only there minutes, and he came back out, and the dog was turned inside out.
Oh no, that's awful.
There was nothing heard. Jeez. It was just as if it got hold of the dog and pulled it inside out.
Oh.
It will target the animals first.
Yeah.
And this place was no different. It was targeting the animal. And I visited the location, and I had my own dog with me. And this thing made itself known. It made itself known, and it did not like the fact that I was there with the dog.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's the fairies for you. They're not what we tend to think they are these days.
No. Quite evil, really.
They always were.
Yeah.
This
I'm happy not meeting one now.
Our ancestors, they understood that they were there. They would have left offerings. They would have went to the locations and left offerings for them, and then they left.
Yeah.
But what do we do today? We have little tiny fairy doors that we fasten underneath our house, underneath the stairs.
I've got 2
things to come in.
Yeah.
We have lost touch with the warnings of our ancestors.
Yeah. I have got two. I haven't put them back up since we decorated, so I might not now.
Yeah, get a hammer and smash them.
I'll just put them on the tree at the bottom of the garden.
Give him to someone you don't like. You'll be all right.
I could do, yeah. Pop these on your skating board.
Yeah.
You'll be fine.
Yeah. Well,
I'm saying I've got one in my studio somewhere. I'm gonna have to bin it.
Yeah.
Do you know I was at a castle there down in Limerick, an ancestral castle down in Limerick, and we were staying there with a group of friends, and we were coming back late one night, and I was driving the minivan, and I happened to notice this light over the hedge, and I thought, what on earth is that? And I knew that I was coming up close to it, so I slowed down and I looked, and this light had gone, and I thought, that was odd, that's strange. But nevertheless, I raced back to the castle, and it was late, and we got everybody to their rooms, and everything was settled. But there was a medium there within the group, and there was also one of the chefs that was there with us, who was also a paranormal investigator. I grabbed both of them and I said, "Come with me." And we went out to the front of the castle.
Yeah.
That's whenever I saw the star move just above the castle. And I said, "There." And I pointed at it. And just as I pointed at it, suddenly it exploded into lights. It went boom. And I said, "Okay, one's a doozy, but the second one has to be there." And suddenly, boom, where I pointed. Then I said, "On a third one, boom."
Yeah.
So I understood that this thing was trying to make contact.
Yeah.
Now, by this stage, the medium and the chef were absolutely beside themselves. They didn't know what the hell was going on. And I said, "Don't be watching that. Watch what's behind you."
Yeah.
And they turned to the tree line. And that's whenever the small lights started appearing, the fae. So they were all in bed together. And they were absolutely blown away. But because whenever initially that this light made its presence known, I projected to it myself and discovered that it was a machine.
Right.
That scared me more than anything. I said, this is not what I thought it was. And whenever I picked up on that aspect of machinery, I then says, "I'm done," and I shut down and I says, "I'm going to bed."
Right.
I left the two out in the garden, and I went to bed. I wanted no more dealing with it, because there was an exceptionally high level of deception there. Whatever that was, I wanted nothing to do with it.
What sort of machine are we talking about? Are we talking about a UFO or an actual machine?
I don't know.
Just machinery.
Just machine. It was a machine. Yeah.
That's a bit creepy.
Yeah. But there we go.
Right. Next question's from Rick again. And he's got the name wrong again, but he did apologise for that. Does Barry believe they all stem from the same source?
Yes, without a shadow of a doubt. And the proof is there. We lay down the trail within the book, The Deception of Gods and Men. And initially, we look at the skull experiment, for instance, which was an amazing series of experiments that were conducted.
Mind blowing.
But why was a grey alien appearing in a seance room? Why were there small UFOs appearing in a seance room? Not the place we would expect to see UFOs.
No.
And also phenomena which we would also associate with the Fae. Again, what are they doing in a seance room? We're expecting to speak to our deceased relatives there.
Yeah.
So, there was all of that was going on. And we were led to believe by the phenomena that we have to appear in darkness, because our manifestation will be affected by the light, and it could be damaging to the medium and things like that. All BS. Because back in the 1970s, the Livermore laboratories in the United States, the scientists there were conducting the same experiments, and these things were appearing in broad daylight,
right,
in front of the scientists. Now, why is it that they
Yeah.
can appear in broad daylight in front of the scientists, and yet we have to conduct our seances in the darkness?
Dark, yeah.
So that, to me, there's no continuity
Yeah.
there. It's one rule for one and one rule for another, and it's not us that's setting the rules. And so again, I always get into trouble whenever I start getting involved with these things. But do I believe that they're coming from the same source? Absolutely, yes. And a lot of that stretches back, and to follow that, we had to follow the phenomena back through time, and back to Mesopotamia.
Right.
Yeah.
And because
Yeah.
that's where we go back to for a written history.
Yeah.
Beyond that, you start moving into the Ubidian culture, which we know nothing about, apart from the fact that they had mounds, and within the mounds there were these reptilian statues that were being discovered within these mounds, but we know nothing of them. So that's as far as we can get back within history. But by God, have we been able to really push it back to show folks this is coming from the same source?
Yeah.
And the reasons why there is a high level of deception with it. And we're not saying that it's all bad. We're not saying that at all. But what we are urging the newbies that are coming forward, and some of ourselves, of course, as well, is to be cautious about what we're dealing with, to question it, to make sure that we know what is coming through.
Yeah.
And like I said before, if it's there for your benefit, it will not mind a few questions for clarity.
Yes.
And that's exceptionally important, because by many stages it's too late whenever we understand that great uncle Bert or Auntie Betty is not what it said it was. By then it's too late.
Yeah.
So we need to be very, very cautious. We need to slow up and take care of it there. Now, in regards, do we have a name for them? We don't give them a name, because within the name is already preloaded. So we stay away from the likes of demon, fairy, jinn, grey alien, all of that stuff. We stay away from. But what we tend to do is mention them and call them as they or them.
Right.
That's it. That's all we do in the book, because the name has power.
Right.
And we don't want to give it that particular power.
I suppose it's not categorizing them in it as well. It's
exactly yes.
Yeah.
And by that in itself, it loses its ability to do what it does.
Yeah.
When we go back and we start looking at the phenomena in itself and weaknesses within the phenomena, we tend to see that the phenomena itself is weak. Its Achilles heel is iron.
Yes.
So from an iron amulet, that in itself is exceptionally powerful for us as a researcher, and even someone generally that wants nothing to do with anything. A little iron amulet around the neck goes a long way.
Yeah.
And when we go back and we look at the Semitic incubus and succubus attacks that happen right up into the present day, we see that 9 times out of 10 they attack women more so than men. But for the majority, they will attack when the women enter their monthly cycle, when they become anemic.
Yes.
So they're targeting the iron. And we know from personal encounters and interviews that the jinn do the same. The fairy are absolutely petrified of iron. And I also have to say, on a experience, so are the greys.
Right.
The greys are petrified of iron. Same phenomena, different mask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, I think now's a good time to go for a break, because we've still got some more questions left. So we'll have a 4-minute break.
Because it's doing my.
We can't even hear what you said then, Andy. Thanks for trying, though.
I hope we sort this lagging out. I'm doing my best. I'm still
I
here.
know.
I know.
Right.
So 4-minute break, yeah?
Okay,
Yeah.
folks.
Cool.
Back in 4. Do you do?
Done.
eight, seven, six, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
And we're back.
And we're back.
We are. Right.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, a bit muffled, but you're all right. You're all.
He's not breaking up.
That's fine.
No, I can't hear you. I'm just having so many issues here.
Sign language.
Can you carry on while I sort my sound out? Thank you. Sorry. Let's
get back into the questions then. So, the next one's from Umbraman. What does Barry consider his best piece of objective evidence available to research?
Possibly one of the things that really still puzzles me is that I was down in Tasmania, and one particular evening we were there walking through the grounds of the old prison, and there was a church up on the hill that was lit by floodlight. It was an old church that had burned down, so it was just the ruins that were left. But the starline above it was absolutely beautiful. Now, I was using a camera that was designed to mimic the child's eye, in which it was more sensitive to the ultraviolet and the infrared spectrum, along with the visible. And I took the shot, and just because I liked the starline above the church, that was it. And lo and behold, in the shot, it was a lucky shot. There was someone actually standing or walking out of the church mid-stride. Now, this was a 35-second exposure.
Yeah.
They should have left a trail all the way across the shot, but they didn't. It was like a shot in time.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, boop, there the person was mid-stride. I
Wow.
can't explain that. I don't know. I don't know what that was.
No.
And how that happened. So that was one thing that really stood out for me, and really has me puzzled right up to this present day.
Yeah, I should think it does. It'd puzzle me, that. Right, next question is from Rick. Has Barry ever encountered a shadow person?
Oh yeah, many times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too.
The problems with investigating and bringing the damn things home.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you show interest in them, they can definitely follow you. And one of the locations I was at, it was an old forest here in Ireland, and I had just come back after a long investigation, and I was sitting in the living room with my wife, and both of us happened to look up, and in the glass of the doorway between the hall and the living room, this shadow, it was more like a child. Stood in the hallway and was reflected off the glass door, and it was staring at us as we were staring at it, and then suddenly it moved, it darted, and it was gone.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can get them. You know, it's one of those things.
I apologise to my shadow person. Only because I pulled the bathroom door open, didn't expect it because it was dark, didn't expect anything, and it was stood in front of me.
Yeah.
And it was just like the outline of a man, but jet black.
Yes.
And I pulled the bathroom door open and went, oh, sorry, and shut the bathroom door again. And then thought, what the hell am I doing? And I pulled the door back open, and obviously it had gone.
Yeah.
But it went back and thought, somebody's just apologised to me. What's going on? Mad.
Yeah.
Anyway, Warren's question. What is Barry's scariest experience here in the UK?
In the UK,
Do you get scared?
Oh yeah. I'll get frightened. In fact, I have to say I'll scream as loud as any other woman in the place. I'm just trying to think though. My scariest location within the UK.
Or your scariest experience?
Oh, the scariest experience then would have to be the Island of the Dead. Yeah. I've spoken about that before. It was brutal, really brutal. And I've never ever come across anything just quite like that before.
What is that place all about?
It was an old place of oracle, much like the Oracle of Delphi and things like that, where the kings and the priests went, and they garnered information from them.
Yeah.
At the doorway between the veils. Now, I have been back to the location since, and I use a particular device here that watches and monitors time differential.
Right.
And just on the event horizon of this particular place, this place that has the natural doorway to the other world, we were, for the first time ever, we were able to see that there was a difference in time between that event horizon and us, which was 100 feet away. So it showed us that yes, there is something definitely going on in this location, and this is why they were coming from all over medieval Europe to come to this island to have their experience.
Right. Mm.
Mm.
Ooh.
Can you hear me okay now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Can you hear us?
Oh, I think I think I've started it.
I can hear a lag, but never mind. We'll battle on. We're fine. Right. Next question's from my friend Deborah Hatswell. Has Barry ever worked on a case where an entire building of place is there one visit yet gone the next?
There was a place I was investigating in Washington,
Right.
and the lady was having an absolute terrible time with this entity that was attacking her at night,
Right.
and it was very severe, very brutal. And I went across, and I had my own encounter with it. We spoke of shadow people there,
Yeah.
and this stepped out of the darkness of the corner, and it was a terrifying experience. But I asked, "Why are you doing this?" And it said, because that in itself, it was a reflection on who we are as a species now, because it wasn't just attacking her; it was attacking everyone else in the apartment complex.
Right.
No one communicated anymore. The neighbors didn't talk to neighbors, so it was able to do whatever the hell it wanted, and people were coming and going all the time. No one was staying in the apartment complex. It was going through the entire building, doing what it wanted to do, and no one was there to stop it. No one even thought of asking their neighbor, "Is anything weird happening to you?"
Yeah. Ooh.
That's,
Creepy.
yes, that is creepy.
Right. Next question's from V. McCrinnan. Has Barry ever looked at the Irish giant otter cryptids, please?
Yes, down on there is an island there, just off Galway,
Right.
and there is the giant otter that's said to be there. Now there've also been other things. They would call them in ancient Irish. They were called the Darahu, and they were like a giant otter. Now in Sligo here, Sligo or Leitrim. It's right on the cusp of the border. There was a lady, I believe her name was O'Connell or Connolly, and she was attacked by one of these things, and it killed her.
Wow.
But yeah, right along the west coast of Ireland, there are various different, excuse me, stories of giant otter, which really shouldn't be there. You know, Ireland is not known for that. But then again, we also have stories of giant serpents that will also traverse the water systems. And in fact, just last Christmas, I've come across a couple of folks there that had a near death experience with two giant serpents that attacked their boat in the water. Just Christmas past.
Oh,
Wow.
And it was savage for them. It really nearly did end their lives. So there are some strange things in our waterways that so examined.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That it seems to be all over the world, doesn't it? Each lake or piece of water has its own.
They have their thing going on. Yeah, that's for sure.
yeah.
What's your main one in Ireland?
What's that?
What's your main one in Ireland?
Oh, we'll have many.
Oh, right.
So you've got the giant serpents there. You've got locations that are even named after the giant serpents, like Loch Pesh up in County Tyrone and things like that. And Pesh was the description for the giant worm, or the serpent. You see, for the Celts, when they came to the island, their idea of a dragon was a giant serpent whose breath could kill you. So for them, the winged serpent that we tend to see in Game of Thrones and things like that was totally alien to them. They wouldn't have known anything about that. To them, it was a giant serpent. And when Christianity came to the island, it was adamant about getting rid of the serpents in Ireland. What serpents? We never had any physical serpents, but there was something spiritually going on, which was reminiscent of the very, very ancient serpentine worship.
Right. Mm. Oh, I'm learning something. I'm not even doing the banners. I'm just listening. Right. We've got. Let me look. We've got one more question, but I've just seen another couple pop up. So, Nathaniel wants to know: does Barry think the phenomena is a threat to us?
I think yes, there is a certain amount of it that we have to be very, very cautious about.
Yeah.
Especially if it goes unchecked. We have to accept responsibility for a lot of the stuff. And in fact, you'll have people there that will have houses that are haunted, and they'll live through all this stuff. But there's a certain amount of responsibility that they also have to take. A doorway has been opened, and they've allowed this to happen. Yeah. Whether we like it or not, even if the doorway is small, we do have to accept a certain amount of responsibility for this.
Yeah.
So that is very, very important to understand.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Where am I now? Right. One from Andy there. Is there any phenomena that Barry doesn't believe in?
Yeah, I have to say I'm struggling big time with this idea, with the idea, the metaphysical belief in we can create phenomena from our thoughts.
Right.
I really struggle with that. This idea of the likes of The Secret and things like that, that we can put it out to the universe, and then the universe will create it and give it back to us and things like that. I struggle with that. And namely, in particular, if that was the case where we could create, and I know that there have been a few examples put forward as possible hypothesis for this phenomenon to support the idea, but the likes of Christmas, for instance, is a perfect example. Many children around the world believe in Santa, yet we don't see a fat man in a red suit flying through the sky in a sleigh with it. It's the belief is there. Yeah. There's a strong belief in the child, but we don't see that manifest into reality.
Yeah.
So this is where I start to have a problem with this idea. Well, we can create with the energy, and we can create from that. That's a very, very loose one there. So I struggle with that, and we're taking that now as fact that we can create from our thoughts into this world of reality. No, I may think that this is a flashlight, but I believe that this flashlight is gold.
Yeah.
No, it's still black metal. No matter what I believe it to be, it's still going to be black metal. So
is that because it already exists? Is that though?
Well, I tell you what, I'll set this one down and I'll set my hand out here and expect the new one. It will not happen. So
you'll be laughing on the other side of your face in the morning when there's one on your pillow.
I know. Well, I will gladly eat my words if that's the case.
That will be funny though. You'll have to let us know if that happens.
Yeah, post a picture.
Yeah, she was right. Right, Terry Brown's asking, has Barry ever looked into the goings on in Portlock, Alaska in the past?
I'm not familiar with that particular place.
I'm not either. You'll have to tell us, Barry, what you're talking about, or give us a bit of a clue, because I've not heard of that either, so I can't even comment on that.
I don't know. I don't know where that is.
No. Don't even ring a bell, that name.
I wonder if that's something.
That wasn't that village, was it? Where all the where all the villages vanished.
Oh. Yeah,
Am
it
I
could be.
thinking of a different one?
I don't
Port
know.
Lock rings a bell, but I wouldn't have put it with Alaska.
There has been a lot of strange goings on in Alaska, all right. But I know that the movie, the what was it called, the Fourth Kind,
Yes.
and but there was a huge lawsuit about that because the town that it was based around it just simply didn't happen. No, they
Warren.
said killer Alaskan Bigfoot.
Bigfoot, yeah.
The Bigfoot, there's been a lot of Bigfoot sightings associated with it ties in with people who disappear. David Paulides also deals with a lot of this within his Missing 411
Yeah.
series,
Yeah,
where
it
you
does.
get a lot of these things connected. And it's strange for us as well when we're researching that we tend to find that a lot of them will happen around a lot of these appearances and disappearances will happen around rock faces.
Yeah.
Rock strata, cliff
Yeah.
faces, cave systems. In fact, David Paulides is on record as saying that that a huge majority of these places, of the bulk of these disappearances happen with people who disappear in boulder fields.
Yeah.
So it's about the rock. What is it about the rock that seems to attract this phenomenon?
Yeah.
But I must say now, if 25 Inuit have disappeared, you know that really is worth investigating. But Alaska's a long way away.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Be a nice little trip, though.
You know, I was in Alaska about 4 years ago, and I can remember very aware along the edge of the forest line and the edge of the village that I was being watched, and I ended up I was in this group of people and I happened to turn my back on it, and all of a sudden I felt that the elbow got really red and stung, and I thought, what on earth is that? And I got back to the ship, but I took my jacket off, and there was just around the elbow was this row of human teeth. I had been bitten on the elbow, the little bastards.
Ow!
But you know, it's one of those things, you know.
That's a bit worrying.
Did that
You
happen to
can't
anybody
explain
else?
that, can you?
I have no idea. You know, it was that particular town. I think it was Saskatchewan. I think it was in, and there was a guy had disappeared up in the higher levels of the mountain range. He was a geologist, funny enough, into rocks, and he vanished. And they never found anything of this guy, not even a pair of shoes. It was just like the ground had opened up and swallowed.
Yeah. You see, that disturbs me. All the missing. Well, I mean, it's bloody hell. It's more than 411 now, and we've gone into the thousands, I think. But that just it really disturbs me. Does that somebody can just be
11111.
yeah, that's more like it. But that somebody can just be ahead of somebody on the trail and completely vanish and never be seen again.
Yeah. It is. It's
Never
quite amazing.
existed.
Quickly it can happen.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that, Barry? What do you think it is? Any thoughts?
I don't. You know, they ended up. There was one particular girl I'm aware of who vanished, and she was only meters in front of the people.
Yeah.
And they just happened to turn their eye away from her and turn back again, and that's how quick it was. And she was. There was no sign of any blood. There was no sign of attack. There was no sign of struggle. Nothing like that.
No.
But there was a remote viewer was used to try and locate her, and at that particular stage, she was still alive, but she was in this type of pit, in the ground. It was like a den,
Right.
rock,
Right.
and so we don't know what happened after that. I have no idea.
Going back to the rock thing, there's a couple of reports that I've heard of. There's one of our guests, Tim Brennan. I don't know if you know him. He said that he was sat on a bench and this hand, like a a cryptid type hand came out of the
Right.
rock behind them. And then another report in BBR, Deborah Hatswell's BBR, a woman witnessed something like a really fast shadow that was keeping track of the car, and she was doing 90 odd miles an hour. It was keeping track with the car, and it went across the car and went into like a great big stone wall at the side of the motorway.
Yeah.
So it's like
again, that's pretty typical. The amount of people who have seen UFOs even flying into rock faces and out of rock faces. You know, it's always about the blasted rock, whatever it is. It's something we're still struggling with to understand.
Yeah, it's strange because something that solid you wouldn't expect to be, you know, for something to come out of it or go into it, or it's just.
Well, I suppose whenever you start looking at vibrations, you know, that there are certain things that can happen with vibration.
Yeah.
And now we've got a part of our archaeological studies now that looks at audio. What do they call it? Audio archaeology or acoustic archaeology.
Like
so
stone tape theory.
Yeah, and this idea that they were using some of the rocks to create these reverb centers that possibly open the doorway to this communication to happen.
Right.
Yeah,
makes you wonder
like
how much
making certain frequencies.
Yeah.
If it's something to do with crystal content in the rock, I've always wondered that. If there's, I mean, we might not be able to see it as a chunk of crystals, but the tiniest little bits of crystals, I mean, you know that they can be used in radios and things, so it makes you wonder.
There's a huge amount of the patterns that were left within the ancient Neolithic chambers and things around Europe that when you apply them to the likes of cymatics, where you can see that possibly what they're inscribing in the walls were actually frequencies. So they left us the key frequencies to open the doorways. But it's all about timing. And so it's understanding when the doorways were to be opened, who has to open them, and what are likely to encounter when the doorway opens. That particular information is something I've been working with now for the past 3-4 years, working on this book now, The Fruit of the Gods.
Yeah. So do you think with this, like the opening of these doors, these rocks, do you think if they was opened at the wrong time or a different time, you'd open it up to something completely different to what you should be getting?
I think ancestrally there was always a time when the doorway was opened. Now, what would happen if we opened it? There may be nothing come through, but the problem is that the likes of some of the more mundane doorways that will open can be open with intent, and that can be a problem, especially from folks who are out for, and again, pardon my English, for shits and giggles. And when you've got a group of folks who are out and you know, they can use their audio device. They can say, "Is there anyone there? Can you give me a sign?" All that type of stuff. The intent is there to open that doorway. Now we may not get a response from that, but the doorway has been opened. And the problem being we don't close the doorway again. So that can be very, very problematic. And even if we think we close the doorway, how do we know?
Yeah, exactly.
So, you know, there are, again, you know, good science starts with observation. So I'm always one for that.
Oh yeah.
Your surroundings, and be careful what you're communicating with.
That's true. I mean, I've done Ouija boards in the past, and we've had pretty good results, but I don't think I'd do one now.
Well, the Ouija board was always, you know, Ouija board got a bad rap. But the problem is it's about intent, and you've gone from a voice recorder that has one intent behind it to a board that has got 4. So you've magnified the intent times 4. When you now the problem is with the likes of CE5, when you're trying to communicate with these things that fly through the sky, and when you got 20 people, then it starts to to cause its own problems because everybody has their own ideas of what they think this thing should be. So it starts to collapse on itself. But if you've got 7, maximum of 10 people, then there's the potential there. And you've got to understand that even with CE5, with the communication with aliens and everything else, you have to understand whenever you strip everything back, forget about what we call it. It's about communicating with the other side.
Yeah.
Esoteric occult practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what we call it. We have to identify it as an esoteric occult practice.
Yes.
And we are then establishing communication with something that we know very little about. And there can be ramifications from that. And it can follow you home.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Now, if we've got people who are there saying, well, we need to do this, we need to practice this, we need to do that, and get our data all together, that's fine. But those people need to know what to do if it goes wrong.
Yes.
And the problem that I see time and time again is that we've got people who are pushing the agenda with not knowing what to do if it goes bloody well wrong.
Yeah. That's the dangerous part.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. You've got to be armed up and you've got to be prepared.
Run.
Sorry, what, Andy?
Just run really fast.
Well, yeah. They can run after you, though. That's the problem.
Yeah, they'll be there before you get there. It doesn't matter, does it?
Tapping the foot and looking at the watch.
So, got to get a takeout.
So, Barry, if you had to pick one area, what would be your favourite area of investigation, be it UFOs, cryptids, whatever?
I like them all because I see them all as the same.
Yeah.
But there are certain locations that I do want to go to. I want to investigate. There is the potential at the moment. There's been a suggestion that I may be going to Egypt in June 2023, and also Norway in December 2023. Now Norway intrigues me because that's a place. Histalen Valley is a place that I've been wanting to get to for a long time, where the phenomena is appearing. Now, granted, it's not appearing as much as what it used to, but it's something that with some of the new technology that I've been working on, that I think would be very beneficial in at least getting us some clear answers from that valley as to what is actually appearing in Histalen and what has got our scientists, our European scientists, scratching their heads.
Yeah. Is it Norway where the trolls are? Or is that somewhere else?
Yes, you do have the trolls, up in the Nordic countries, and Iceland. Of course, you got the trolls there too.
Oh, of course, yeah. They've got a big thing about that, haven't they, over there in Iceland?
Some really good movies out about the trolls. In fact, there's one coming this year, I believe. I think it's called Troll.
Right.
It looks exceptionally good. Yeah, very on par with Nope, not of Planet Earth, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I have to say,
I need to watch that.
A very good one.
Yeah.
I've heard.
Can I just ask quickly while you're talking about that? All right. Have you watched Elves on Netflix?
Elves.
Yeah.
Elves.
No,
It's on
I can't say that.
Elves. It's on Netflix.
Okay,
That's really good. It's dubbed, but it's well.
Right. I'm just going through.
And,
I think it's called Sandman at the moment on Netflix.
Yeah. Oh, that is amazing.
What?
I'm in the middle of that now.
Yeah.
Sandman. Oh my
right.
God. I started watching it and I'm like, Aleister Crowley. As soon as I seen the first episode is like Alistair Crowley straight away,
Right.
and then they make. You've got to watch it.
That's another one for my list. I've got a list of books and a list of things to watch.
Yeah.
Right, we've got some more.
Sandman is amazing.
We've got some more questions. Creepy Cool wants to know, does Barry miss being on taps and would he do it again? I'm presuming he means Ghost Hunters, but yeah, with.
If I was to go back to Ghost Hunters, it would be a different thing altogether.
Right.
Because I wouldn't be doing the whole ghost thing anymore, because I'd be looking at the greater picture.
Yes.
So I would be going after the cryptids, after the UFOs, after everything, and really bringing the viewer along to show that we're now connecting the dots.
Right.
And that show would be a very, very different thing altogether now. It wouldn't be running from castle to castle throughout Europe. No, we would actually be hunting these things, and physically, spiritually, we would be tested to our limits.
Yeah. Ooh, that'd make a good show, though.
Whether they would want us to do it or not.
Well, yeah. Could be a suggestion, though. Something to branch out into a different area.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We've got another. I keep having to flick backwards and forwards. Right. Ancient Ruby's wanting to know, has Barry ever seen a small black troll?
I can't say I have.
You might if you go to Norway.
But, well, Dear only knows what we'll encounter in Norway. But I have to say I'm very cognizant of not falling for the trap of look at this bright object, and knowing that there's already something on the ground behind us.
Distraction techniques.
Yeah.
Yeah. If money and anything else was no object, there was no limits, where would you go investigate?
Oh, Norway would definitely be there.
Yeah.
Definitely. It would have to be on the cards. I would probably head over to the United States if I was allowed in.
Yeah, not banned.
And there would be a few things there that I would like to check up on in the United States, back to the likes of Utah, following up on some of the research there.
Yeah. So tell us a bit more about Skinwalker Ranch then. How long did you spend there, and did you?
Oh, we were only there for days.
Counter?
Only there for days, and I was very, very, very cognizant of the phenomenon, understanding that the phenomenon itself is not just the ranch. It's it in itself it belongs to a magnetic anomaly which extends 80 miles.
Right.
So it's the phenomenon itself is greater than the ranch. It's just focalized on that particular ranch because a lot of people are allowed on it. My own belief system is that it's all about the gold. It's all about the wealth, the riches that are under the ground.
Yeah.
And the more that they're pushing for these riches, the more that they're going to start interfering with this particular phenomenon.
Yeah.
And, again, there's a lot to be understood from our ancestors and what they were dealing with. And the likes of the serpents, of course, they evolved within modern mythology and folklore. They've developed into the dragons. The dragons look after the gold. And we see that within the likes of Lord of the Rings and things like that. Smog.
Yeah.
But again, I'll get back to this idea that for what guarded the wealth, the natural wealth of the planet, was serpents.
Yeah.
And the symbolism in that is tremendous, especially when you look at the TV show that's now coming out of that particular area. And because who is it who guards the ranch? Who is it that tells them don't dig the ground? Who is it that stands with a shotgun at the gate protecting the place? It's the dragon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the symbolism is there. They're not lying to us. They put it plain right in front of us, but not many people see it. And one of the scientists there is responsible for developing technology that looks for looks for valuable metals
Yeah.
deep
Right.
underground. And there is history within the area of gold and silver and other valuable minerals within the area. So I think it's about gold. But the problem is that there's also a phenomena there that the more they push for it, the more it'll kick back.
Right.
But I don't believe it is what they show us on TV.
No.
Rarely is.
There seems to be an awful lot of phenomena that goes on there. It's all sort of concentrated in that one area.
Well, again, it's an 80-mile magnetic anomaly, and that in itself speaks volumes. In that it's not just the ranch; it's the greater area around the ranch.
Yeah.
But it is what it is,
I think that the story that came from that really, really startled me was the one about the bulls that were crammed into the container. That was just what they wouldn't do that because they'd never do anything like that. But they were locked in, weren't they? They
were, yeah. And I have to say, the last time I was there, that they had small alpacas in the herding pens out in the open, and I thought, do we need to go down that particular route?
Yeah.
We've seen this done many times before. We know what it does to the dogs and all the rest. So we don't need to be doing this. We don't need to be baiting it.
No, we don't.
You can be sure, as there's a hole in the duck's ass, that particular phenomena is well in tune with the people that are on that ranch.
Yeah. So
if they think that they're outsmarting it, they're not, because they already know. They've picked up in the thought process before you even thought it. So it's shown time and time again that it's very able to outthink them.
Yeah.
There are other esoteric practices in which you can adopt that you can hide your thought processes, especially where you've got technology involved, but they're not using them.
Right, I think we've got a couple of questions. Another one from Andy. What does Barry think CERN are doing and why?
Who the hell knows what CERN's at?
Yeah, I know. I can't get my head around it.
Yeah.
There's definitely something going on.
Yeah. I can understand that they're trying to get ahead, but don't do experiments like that on the planet. Do it in space between the moon and us. There's plenty of space up there to do that.
Yeah.
Don't do it here. We don't need to be creating a black hole in the planet.
No, that's true.
No.
Yeah. Do it where it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
And the last question for the moment is from Joe Weeks. What would Barry like to have an encounter with that he hasn't so far, and why?
I would like to come face to face with the Shining Ones.
Right.
And beat the absolute living hell out of them. And teach them a lesson. Stop pissing about with us.
Yeah. Open a can of whoop-ass on them.
Yeah, open a can of whoop-ass on them, yeah. Absolutely.
I want to know what are your thoughts on Dogman?
Dogman. There are good sound encounters that have been reported from not only from the Americas, right across. In fact, I'm aware of places in Scotland, just south of Edinburgh. There's a location there that dogmen have been reported in. So yeah, you'll find them all over the planet, various different locations.
What do you think they are? If you could put
I
a
have
thing
no
on.
idea. No idea.
There's a lot. I know there's a lot of theories as to what they are. I'm beginning to lean towards the genetically engineered.
Wouldn't it be great if we were able to make contact with Barbara Woodhouse and bring her on an investigation for the blog?
She put the fear of God in him. Never mind them putting fear of God in her.
Oh, no.
Shit.
You'd never see one again.
No, you wouldn't. That'd be it. That would not be that.
Oh,
Oh, dear,
imagine.
that'd be really good. That'd be really good. That. So what's in the pipeline now for Barry Fitzgerald then? What have you got going on? What's coming up?
Well, I'm working on the next book, the Fruit of the Gods.
Yeah.
And so that's taking up a lot of my time. And we're trying to get a 6-part documentary series together.
Yeah.
Which is dealing with paperwork and everything at the moment, and getting that all sorted. So, and then moving on from that, then there's the potential of looking at these other areas of high strangeness, and thinking outside of the box. And instead of going in with huge TV crews and everything else, and trying to do this and trying to do that, no, we want to tiptoe into these locations, and find out what actually is going on. So we're being smarter about our investigative techniques, and see what we can find.
Yeah. Yes. So what's the new book about? Just
the book itself is about. Initially, it was a woman who had an encounter here in Ireland. Excuse me, and this particular encounter was reminiscent of having an interaction with the fairy,
right?
But that in itself led to a discovery of a particular tree species and fruit that was connected with the summer solstice, and the connection back to the Neolithic passage chambers. And this particular fruit is something which is vital when communicating with these beings from beyond the veil.
Right.
So this brings us from Ireland all the way back to Mesopotamia. And it's been an absolute whirlwind of an experience to do this. And we're waiting on tests coming back from laboratories within Ireland here, and various other tests have been already carried out, and it's just absolutely staggering. And you also have this window, because the fruit itself only falls every 4 years, so you have this narrow window in which you can get the fruit, to have the fruit tested, to put it in storage and everything else.
Right.
But when the fruit falls, it falls on the solstice. It's like nothing else I've ever experienced. When you pick this fruit up, for about 4 days, the hairs on your arm will lift. They're highly energized.
Right.
After about 4 days, then it dissipates, and naturally it's like a battery. Absolutely phenomenal. I can't say what the fruit is or anything, and I can't go into that, but it is absolutely staggering. And to think that we have depictions, Akkadian wall art, showing these ancient deities handing over this fruit to kings and the priests. And we know now what the tree is and everything else. We've established that, and again, looking at the history, we're going back into 6,500 BC. Phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah. I'm guessing that people will find out what the fruit is if they buy the book.
Yes, they will.
That's another one for my list.
Yeah.
Do you remember
Next
that
one.
computer paper?
Then we go.
Do you remember the computer paper that came in a stack? I think I need that now.
Oh,
I've got
green
that
and
much
white.
to read. Yeah.
I
Right.
have to say the last book that we done there, the Deception of Gods and Men, it's available in audiobook,
Right.
and I thoroughly enjoyed that. I wasn't reading it, but I was listening to it in the car, and I got caught up in it. And after you write a book, you completely forget about what you had written about, because you go on to the next project. So you're in the car listening to this audiobook, and you're thinking, "Wow, that's absolutely fantastic." You completely forget. Wait a minute, I bloody wrote the thing. Of course, it's.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's
I can see that. Yeah.
audiobook. Yeah.
Right. I've got another question from Johnny Appleseed. Could Barry please tell us the Devil's Island story?
The Devil's Island.
Unless you're thinking of the Island of the Dead, which we've already covered.
Which we covered, yeah.
Yeah. All right. We'll leave that one then and put this one on. Richard Crooks has made a comment that, Barry, lots of people with the missing 411 disappear fruit picking, especially berry picking.
Yeah, that's true. Yep.
That's very true.
And again, that's again refers us back to the Bigfoot. But it also it also connects us back to the rock, and what's underneath that particular area. The foundations of those areas that disappear tend to be associated with rock, high amounts of rock. So, again, it really does beg the question: what is happening? How is this rock being manipulated the way that it does? I remember coming across this encounter from two native kids, and I believe it was in the Superstitious Mountains, and they were walking along when all of a sudden someone from within the rocks was calling to them, and they turned because they were walking along, they were minding their own business, and they turned, and lo and behold, there was an opening in the rock. But their instinct, and this is important, their instinct was screaming at them within the 20-second window. Their instinct was saying, "Get the hell out of here!"
Yeah, and
they left. So they never, this voice was beckoning them into the hole, and they never went. And that's very, very important, especially when you look at the likes of the Shining ones, my arch nemesis. When you've got things like Medjugorje over in Eastern Europe, you've got this thing that appeared to the children, and within the first 20 seconds, the children were frozen stiff with fear.
Yeah,
that speaks volumes.
Yeah,
if something's there for your benefit, it would not frighten you to the point that you can't move. And the same with the likes of Lourdes over in France was another perfect example. When Saint Bernadette got to see this particular creature that appeared, she didn't identify it as Our Lady. It was something else.
Yeah.
In fact, she said it was smaller than her, and she referred to it as that thing, not Our Lady. That was a manipulation of the church that did that came later.
Yeah.
So within that initial understanding, Bernadette didn't know what the hell she was looking at, and in fact, she was afraid of it. So again, that speaks volumes, and that's how we need to understand the phenomena and how our bodies react to the phenomena. It tells us it's the best piece of equipment that we have.
Yeah.
Forget cameras, forget geopods, and all the rest of that nonsense. It's our instinct.
Yes.
Can be highly attuned to this phenomena and tell us great things about it.
Yeah. So if you were to give somebody one piece of advice about all this, what would it be?
Listen to your gut.
Yeah.
Your instinct is very, very powerful. But understand from a modern context that we consume things within our diets that can interfere with that signal. And refined sugar is our biggest Achilles heel.
Yeah.
Refined sugar can shut off our fight or flight. In other
Yes.
words, we can go into a situation blind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what you were on about, wasn't it, Andy, when you were on about not eating sugars before you went
Yeah,
investigate?
it was Steve. Yeah, it was Steve Mera that mentioned it.
Yeah.
He mentioned
Yeah, it
it
was.
both times I've interviewed him. But
Yeah.
he said it's at least 72 hours before you go out on an investigation.
Yeah, absolutely. I wrote a book on
Yeah,
it,
so-
the influence, and it touches on that about what sugar does to us.
Yeah.
And we're
Well,
living in a society in which we're eating huge amounts of sugar.
It's in everything.
It's
Oh,
in
bread.
every. We're being blinded left, right, and center. And in fact, our children have this unique ability to commune and see things beyond the veil that
Yes.
we as adults no longer can see.
Yeah.
Yet at times, whenever the veil is thinnest, in May and October, according to the Celts,
Yeah.
what do we do? What do we do with our children? We feed them copious amounts of candy.
Yes.
We blind them.
yes.
Yeah. Scary. But it's
Yeah.
in it's the hidden sugars as well, isn't it? Like I say, it's in bread, it's in cereal.
It's in our milk. It's in everything.
It's in
Yeah. We just have to be. We just have to.
Yeah, it's not just. Sorry, I was just going to say it's not just sugar, is it? You got like sucrose and glucose and all the NutraSweets and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but it's the more refined one that's the problem, isn't it?
The refined sugars, the big one for the immune system.
Mm. Well, I think that brings us nicely to an end. It's been absolutely fantastic.
Apologise for my.
Thank you very much, folks, for having me on.
I apologise for my internet connection.
Yes, you must.
It is awful. I'm just gonna throw it out the window. I just need my computer back.
I didn't think anybody.
Well, hopefully you'll come back on.
You didn't think anybody what?
I didn't think anyone used dial-up anymore.
Andy certainly does.
Dial-up really best.
It would actually. Andy's gone again.
Honestly, I think it's It's just a laptop. It's so slow. As soon as you connect to streaming, it just slows right down.
Yeah.
You need to wipe it and
All
then
right,
start
doing
again.
work on. I'll wipe it as it goes out the window. It's fine. Don't worry.
All right, folks.
No,
it's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, but hopefully
it's been brilliant. Thank you.
And we'll be able to have a proper conversation with no lagging and me not getting frustrated because I can't hear anything.
Well, everybody else has had a lovely time.
Massive thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you.
Very well.
Yeah, just
very well.
Just me.
Have a good one, folks, and stay safe.
Thank you. You too.
So, all right then.
No, he's
right,
gotta go.
we'll see you next Friday at the same time.
Yes, we will.
And he's on, Deborah.
Preston Dennett.
You sure?
Yeah. Yeah. It's on my diary.
Just check him. Right. I can't get my diary up, can I? Because it's on my other computer.
No. Yeah, so don't ask me if I'm sure because I've got it in front of me.
So on that note, we will see you
Mera.
all next week. Have a great weekend.
Yes.
Speak to you
Have
soon.
a lovely
Take care, guys.
bank holiday weekend.